The movement was begun by a scientist who discovered, quite by accident, these signals being sent. Please understand, they are safe as long as they are not discovered.
They want their weapon.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.
Okay, I want to get into something and hopefully reaffirm and or open some eyes to what is going on, what's really going on, and hopefully get people to try to stop figuring out the why. It's not about the why, it's about the what. A lot of people think that the future holds the information, the now. It's not about the now. If you look into the past, when they were more lax about something, like if something immediately goes dark, that's something that you need to pay attention to. Like CNN was running news segments on electromagnetic weapons as far back as like 1989. And then right after that, after they had really perfected these things in long-range applications, it just went dark. And that's when you have to be like, so like 12 years ago, so you have to really realize what 12 years is. It's over a decade, man. So things have changed. Homeland Security came out with this thing called F.A.S.T. Now, let's talk about F.A.S.T. a little bit. F.A.S.T. stands for Future Attribute Screening Technology. And what this is pre-crime. Now, they talked about this a lot for a very short period of time, and then it just went poof. Just like the CNN and other newscasts on electromagnetic and radio frequency weapons. It just went dark. But let's learn about it so that you understand it a little bit. Check this out.
For FAST program, the Department of Homeland Security is developing innovative physiological and behavioral screening technologies to streamline the screening process at security checkpoints. In support of this program, Battelle has partnered with industry leaders Farber Specialty Vehicles and Draper Laboratory to design and develop a portable research facility for the development and demonstration of innovative security screening technologies, the FAST Demonstration Laboratory. The mobility of the FAST Demonstration Laboratory allows security officials to quickly and efficiently establish security boundaries at any location, making it useful for everything from large sporting events, border crossings, or airports. The Screening Mobile Module provides a checkpoint to establish or supplement security facilities at points of entry. At special events, attendees pass through the Screening Mobile Module. Inside the Screening Mobile Module, a suite of real-time, non-invasive sensors measure behavioral and physiological indications of malintent, or the intent or desire to cause harm. As sensor technology evolves, the Screening Mobile Module can be easily reconfigured with movable parts.
What is this really measuring? It's measuring blood pressure, breathing pattern, pulse rate, stress level, all of that, and even things they don't want to talk about, subvocal speech, other things. And you can do this with practically nothing. With a 0.50 hertz signal sent through the electrical grid, I can monitor your breathing patterns in your house. So the world is the research center. These signals are everywhere. And this is exactly what we are dealing with. I've always said, first and foremost, this is a surveillance system. It's weaponized, but it is a surveillance system. And I'm going to explain this to you in depth, but I want to show you something really quick. This is a guy from the Green Bay area, just a dude in his basement with a laptop and with some stuff, some equipment laying around, who has created the 0.50 hertz frequency to monitor breathing in a room. And he actually monitors his own breathing. It's very short. I'm just going to play it for you. It's just an example. Breathing can be used for a lot. and it can be pulsed right on the power grid. And with smart meters giving an IP address, basically an address to every independent wiring system on the grid, they know who's breathing in there. This is all metadata.
The current mobile modules provide a useful testbed for developing innovative screening technologies.
It's piggybacking on everything, and that's what it was designed to do, just like the woodpecker. And all this data is going to and fro, but it gets a lot heavier than this. So the trailer and the cameras were never needed, never necessary. These are frequencies that are riding on the grid, Wi-Fi, smart grid, and piggybacking. And, basically the system is similar to an Alexa or a Siri, except it's looking for criminal behavior instead of keywords. It's basically the same theory. And that's why they could get people to go for this. Voice to skull sound weapons, this kind of technology has existed for decades. When I say they began using this, I'm not talking about voice to skull and sound weapons only, because that is one arm of this, and they've been using that alone since the 60s, easy. But this as a whole, to monitor and then start to track people and then use audio weapons on them, this became a reality. They started testing it in the late 80s, early 90s. The surveillance fugitive detection frequencies changed the game. So they started testing originally on extremely isolated people, both mentally and physically. Examples of that would be like national forests or mental institutions. And then after 9/11, they could legally monitor anyone. So they could legally monitor anyone exhibiting these traits, whether agents created them or not. And what does this do? It subverts everything, and it creates funding. Just like 9/11, Oklahoma City, Waco, or Ruby Ridge. It gets way heavier than this, because what is actually happening is everything that you've been trying to figure out goes back to this. Practically everything. All they need are the frequencies to monitor all your vitals. All your vitals, your movements, everything. And let's be sure that you totally understand what this is. This is a system that is designed to catch criminals, fugitives, and somebody who may be attempting to commit a crime by their stress level, by their body language, by their vitals, by breathing pattern, by all this different metadata combined. Now, let's talk about you. When you talk to people and you read emails and you read these stories, eventually you begin to boil it down and boil it down and boil it down, and you realize that there are only a few different scripts. It's like Mad Libs. There are just details plugged in by a machine learning computer. And these people that are attacked with these weapons will begin to hear these scripts that start on them. And the only common denominator is to constantly keep you in a state of panic, fear, distress, high levels of stress-inducing audio. We're coming to kill you. We've poisoned you. We're going to kill your family. You have to do this or we're going to kill your blah, blah, blah. You name it. If it's bad and stressful, it is said to the person. Why? Why is that happening? Think about it. Why is that happening? This is a system that was weaponized without the good guys' understanding of it. And it was slipped by people under the premise that, oh, if it's only going to pick up bad guys, then I'm cool with that. It's not surveilling everybody. It is looking for specific behavior, specific vitals. And that was the excuse to put it into place. So what if you can turn somebody in to somebody who behaves like they have malintent, like a criminal, like a fugitive who lives in fear of other people on the run? That is exactly what they are doing to these targets. So this system was put in place under the premise that it only picked up bad guys, but they are turning people in to having the behavior of bad guys. This whole thing just went dark. It was already in place, but it just got bigger. When the smart meter system went in, the smart grid, the Internet of Things, air gig, all that, step by step by step, you have a system that is putting this signal everywhere. Now, you have these people that are calm, living their life, bear no traits to a criminal whatsoever. But strange things begin to happen. They start to get an artificial tinnitus in their right or left ear. Things begin to change. They start to get zaps and pulses, and someone has to be doing this. So they begin tearing their house apart, looking for, whatever's been hidden in their walls. They figure logically that it has to be close to them, not realizing that it is a weapon that is far away from them. The controllers and the actual weapon is far, far away from them. It's a signal propagating all around them all the time. They start to become paranoid. They start to become angry. They start to look around in public and carry the demeanor and the breathing pattern and the stress of somebody who has malintent, a criminal, a fugitive. Because they want to know how they can take a normal person and turn them into a criminal, someone who is detectable, or a Manchurian. And this is how it is working. This is why everybody who experiences this experiences threats, and this computer is constantly freaking out when they do something to always induce stress. And if you start to fall out of that stress mode and not fear it, it doubles down trying to make you scared and stressed out again, because that is when you can be monitored. When you are behaving like a criminal or a fugitive, it is turning you into an artificial criminal, fugitive, or someone with malintent. This is what it's doing. And that's why there's all these stress factors. So if you just chill the fuck out, you are done with the game. This not only does everything that I just talked about, but this subverts everything. It subverts medical information. It subverts criminal information. It subverts everything. And here's what I'm talking about. This is a lecture on active shooters. Who fits the profile of an active shooter, and what does an active shooter look like? Well, you have this collage of images of these people. But there's a problem with this. This guy is giving a lecture on this information, and he fully believes that it's real. But I am telling you, half the people in this collage have 100% been hit and turned into criminals with these weapons. So that information is subverted, and they were turned into criminals by sensitizing them to this and getting them jacked up enough to show up on radar in the first place. Every mofo in this country, and most Western countries, period, are already sensitized to these frequencies. But when you get in those states of mind, you are going to come up as a fugitive or criminal. And at that point, they can legally start monitoring and effing with you. They just don't realize, the people out there, giving these kind of lectures, don't realize that half or more of these people, but half 100%, were turned into active shooters. All right? This is a whole nother level of what's going on. And you need to realize this, because while some dickhead is trying to sell you fear and stress, and it's never going away, and they're killing you on, these YouTube channels, the key is you need to relax. you relax and drop out. Don't play the game. And when you don't play the game, you can't remain in the entrainment of this and stay on the radar. You ask anybody, anyone experiencing these weapons, and the stories they will tell you, what it boils down to is keeping you in a state of fear and stress so that you can be monitored. Constant assaults on your psyche, constant threats, constant everything to keep those stress levels up, because you are giving the imprint, you are giving the biodata of a criminal. Think about it. It's all about science and subverting the system. These people out there that try to figure this out, the people that were taken into MK Ultra weren't picked out for any reason. They just showed up at the hospital and were taken in randomly. And they were randomly picked out. Of course, there are political targets. It's weaponized. I get that. But for those of you who can't figure it out, it isn't because of a reason. It's because your data probably showed you were a really calm and mellow person before that, and they wanted to see if they could turn that around. That is what they do. That's what they've been doing forever. It's just a fact. And it doesn't stop there. This surveillance system is seismic and frequency based. So where did they cut their teeth getting to know this and getting to know how to use this? Where no one else was around, like this Eloise Lindsay in 1989. So they know you're there, okay? But they need to stress you out. So suddenly you start to hear these noises around you that aren't real, that are being created around you, haunted house style, to freak you out. You get amped up. Your stress levels go up. Your heart rate, your breathing pattern, everything changes, and then they've got you on radar. And once you are on radar, you can be manipulated and pushed into whatever direction they want, and they learn how to do this with these hikers, campers, hunters, and all these people, some who lived and some who didn't. But they didn't care because they learned how to really use this and get the psychology of it down, the mind games, the tricks. But this is the same thing. They're just doing it to people in urban and suburban areas. So they ramp these people up, going. That is what's happening to these people. Bringing them up and then just riding them till they burn out. Unless you can get control of it and realize that it's bullshit. So they just looked for lone hikers, one set of footsteps, one set of breathing patterns. They've had this technology for decades. It is just a buildup of different magic tricks in the bag until it can be presented as this whole magic hat. And that's really it. And how did they legalize it? They had to figure out a way so that people would know about these signals and still say, okay, it's cool, because it's looking for criminals. That is how they're getting away with it. It's looking for criminals. What those people don't know is that they're turning people in to people that will be monitored by elevating their bios. So, in a nutshell, this is what I'm telling you. 9/11 comes around. Patriot Act gets signed. All these laws get passed. These quote-unquote draconian laws. Then what happens is they implement this signal that they've had, that they've researched. But it's only looking for fugitives, criminals, terrorists, people with malintent. But what the good guys don't realize is that it's already weaponized, and once they stress somebody out, they can legally monitor them and fuck with them, whisper in a terrorist's ear, right? What is happening here? Around the same time that this went dark, Edward Snowden came out with his bullshit, talking about 40-year-old technology. And the NSA and all these intelligence agencies act like they're totally pissed off that Snowden would come out with this stuff. This stuff was old Atari, Commodore 64 technology that no one gave a shit about anymore because they had these signals that did it all. They don't need to read your keyboard when they can read subvocal speech. That is what's going on. And that is why they are constantly trying to keep these people in a state of stress. Because without it, they can't do it. You must understand that. And next, we'll be normalizing it through the medical system and with watches and with all this stuff so that everybody's being monitored. But still, there will always be the few that get purposely riled up to give off the vitals, the BIOS of criminals so that they can be monitored, tested on, or turned into Manchurians. That is what's going on. Think about it. If you're dealing with this, think about it. You know, through the mid and late 90s, you had these weird lines in the sky. 9/11 comes along. All these crazy laws are passed. And free Wi-Fi and cell coverage blankets the globe. Like almost overnight, everywhere. They blanket the globe with these frequencies everywhere. And then you also have the electrical grid that things are piggybacking on right into your home. These laws are passed, and suddenly there's an explosion in what they call TIs, right? And people can't figure it out. What's going on? And this is the answer. This is the answer to all those questions. And just for the hell of it, let's change their acronym FAST to Future Asset, not Attribute, but Future Asset Screening Technology, because that's what they're doing, is they're making people act like fugitives and criminals so that they can legally do this. So next I'm going to put out a video explaining how Guantanamo Bay tactics are exactly what people dealing with these weapons are dealing with. They are identical in every way. And I'll try to get that out in the next couple days. And you know what? If you don't want to believe this, that's cool. Just go somewhere else. Don't try to argue with me. Just go somewhere else. If you want to fucking chase cars down the street for the rest of your life, that's cool, man. Just go somewhere else. It's that easy. You know, while the rest of the world is talking insanity and impossibilities and craziness, I'm trying to, you know, come at this rationally and get you to plant your feet, you know? So that's it for now. Look out for Charlie. That's it for now. Look out for Charlie.
Oh, man. I like this kid. This fucking guy's crazy.
Look out for Charlie.
I want that son of a bitch dead. I want him dead.